Hello everyone! How are you doing out there? So this is totally new for me. I'm so used to talking to you at having seminars and connecting over our gardening messages at our inspiration nights. But I hope that you all are in a safe place and in the greenhouse today, enjoying the beautiful sunshine outside. Hopefully that you're enjoying that from your home as well. And we really miss you, but we do want to make sure that everybody's safe. So this is a great way that we can connect with one another right now during this time. But I do miss seeing all your smiley faces. But right now we can think and daydream about what our gardens are going to look like this summer, and when we can all get back into our happy places, right? But there are a few things that I just want to tell you. If you use the emojis as you're replying to things, if you have any questions, write them into the comments and let me know where you're from, right? We want to know who's watching this. So, but today we're going to talk about seed starting, and this is a great activity that you can do at home. A few things that you want to remember is if you haven't done seed starting before or started seeds at home, it is really quite easy. But don't go totally hog wild, right? Start with a manageable amount, and you only want to start seeds with something that you want to grow. You are going to consume it if it's vegetables, or have it grow in your garden, and do the right amount. So a family might have a slicing tomato and a cherry tomato. You probably don't need 10 different tomato varieties unless you're a big canner or something like that. So and then when you're picking out your seed varieties, there's a lot of really good information on the back of the seed packets, and we'll talk about that in a little bit when we do the planting. But there's a lot of great information on the back there. Good things to start from seeds would be tomatoes, peppers, beans. We'll plant those today, as well as some of your cold crop like lettuce or your kales would be good, because you can put those outside a little bit sooner than some of the other items. And then some easy flowers, sunflowers are a great one to start inside, as well as marigolds and zinnias as well. And we do have seeds available on Bachmans.com for non-curbside pickup and non-curbside delivery, so you can take a look at the selection there as well. So a few essentials you'll need for starting your seeds. And the first is a container. And you can use any of the Jiffy Pot containers. The nice thing about these containers is once you're ready to plant them outside, you can plant them potted all. It's just a peat pot. Or you can have something more like a celled container, something that you would actually find when you're buying flower packs or something in the garden center. But you don't need to go out and spend a lot of money. You can use household items as well. So those old yogurt containers, you could use those. Or if you have some plastic annual containers from garden center purchases prior, you can use those as well. There's just a couple things. You do need them to be sterile, and so you would want to sterilize them with 1 part bleach to 10 parts water, and they all have to have good drainage. So if you're using those yogurt cups, make sure you clean them out real well, disinfect them, and then poke some holes in the bottom so you get good drainage. You don't have to be fancy on any of this. You just need it to hold that soil medium. So speaking of that, the soil that we're going to use is, I highly recommend using a seed starting mix. And the reason is it's a little bit lighter weight it's also sterile. So it just will not have as many diseases when your seeds are germinating. So what you want to, today we're going to just use some of the individual peat pots, and we've set them in a nice tray here. So when we do water it, the water will go down into the tray. And the first thing you're going to do is fill them with soil. I'm going to put my garden gloves on here. And so you'll take your seed starting mix and fill your container, and you'll want to fill them about 3/4 to all the way full. Okay, so you can kind of see how they're filled up here. Now what you want to do is you'll want to water that seed starting mix. And you want to make sure that it gets evenly moist. You want to water it before you actually put the seeds in. And this is a great activity, well, for anyone, but especially kids too, because, you know, who doesn't love to like play in the dirt? So get that water in there and get it mixed up. You really want it to be not totally soupy, but you want it wet.
Susie, we have a question, and the question is, can I use garden soil to start seeds?
So we have a question on if you can use garden soil to start seeds. And I don't recommend it. I highly recommend using a seed starter or a potting soil that is a little lighter weight and it's sterile. A garden soil is very heavy, it's going to get compact, and it's typically not sterile. So once you've completely dampened your seed starting mix, then you're going to take your seeds, and today we're just going to plant some bean seeds. And as I mentioned before, on the back of the seed packet, it tells you the depth that you're planting them, as well as the spacing. So if you had a whole tray, you would need to space them that far apart. We have individual cells here, so the spacing will be done for us. But the depth is very important. And the general rule of thumb is the bigger the seed, the deeper you would plant it. And a smaller seed, you do plant them quite shallow. So we'll take a few seeds here. And I'd recommend putting 2 or 3 seeds into each of your little cells or containers, and then just cover them up so they're about 1 inch deep, which is what the recommendation is for a bean seed. Okay, and then once you get them all planted, you're just going to do a nice little water again on the top. Once you have everything planted, then you want to create a humid environment for your seeds. So you can put a dome over the top of them to create that humidity, or you can put saran wrap over it as well. Now you're going to watch to see for when they germinate, and depending on the type of seed, which it says on the back of your seed, like this will sprout in 7 to 10 days. So you really want to watch that for the germination, because when something germinates, when you start seeing the green sprouts come out, you want to remove the humidity, the top of the tray, or the saran wrap as well. There's also a few other things that will help in the germination. They're not necessary, but they do help with the success of it. And so one of those is a seed heating mat. So seeds need to be between 65 and 70 degrees in order to germinate. So a seed heating mat, putting your tray on that, will keep that constant soil temperature at that 70 degree mark. Now, sometimes in your home, you're already at that temperature, so that maybe isn't necessary. The other would be any lights. And so, here we have a very nice lighting apparatus, but really any full spectrum fluorescent light will do. These are very important. If you're going to start your seeds in your basement where you maybe don't have a lot of natural light, you really are going to need some lighting. However, I like to just, start them, upstairs right amongst everything else, because I'm of the philosophy out of sight, out of mind. And so if you have them in an area that you normally are, you're going to make sure that they stay evenly moist and be watching that germination. And typically in our homes right now, the stem with the two leaves coming out, the strongest one you'll leave, and the others you can remove and let the strongest shoot come up. Then when it's time to plant them outside, and our average last frost date in Minnesota is usually between May 10th and May 15th. But really Mother Nature gets to decide that one for us. We don't always get to decide that. It will be time to plant these outside. And in order to do that, you need to acclimate your seedlings to an outdoor environment. And that process is called hardening off. And so you're going to take your seedlings and you're going to bring them outside during the day. And don't put them in direct sunlight right away. They've been in your house, and that is a bit more of a filtered light. So you'll put them outside during the day and then kind of bring them in at night. And you're going to want to do that for 4 days or so and get them acclimated to the outdoors. And then you can plant them in your garden.
Susie, we have a question from Amy, and she's wondering how much water is needed during germination.
So Amy asked the question of how much water is needed during germination. And you want the soil mixture to always stay evenly moist. And it really does depend on how warm it is and how much sunlight it's getting. But typically, after you've wet the soil and you've planted them, then usually just a little bit of light watering or using a spray bottle as well to mist them so you don't disturb those seeds, and just doing that occasionally. It's better to water them a little bit more often than to water them too much. So err on the side of a little less would be beneficial. So then once you plant them outside, you can let them grow in your garden and be able to reap the benefits of a beautiful harvest later on.
Susie, we have a question from Jenna, and she's wondering if she needs to repot the germinated seeds into a larger pot before they get planted outside.
So Jenna asked if she needed to repot the germinated seeds into a larger pot before going outside. And at this time of the year, that would not be necessary. Once you get these to be germinated, most likely they'll be able to survive just fine in these smaller containers, and then it'll be warm enough to plant them out in your garden. So you can just keep them right in these peat pots or your yogurt containers until you're ready to knock them out of those yogurt containers and plant them in your garden.
Susie, there's another question about fertilizing and if we need to fertilize the seedlings right now.
So the question is about fertilizing, and do we need to fertilize the seedlings? And so right now, when you're getting them to germinate, you don't need to fertilize them. once you plant them out in your garden, you can certainly use an organic-based garden fertilizer. But when they're first germinating, just let them go. Those seeds have a lot of powerful little energy for such small things in them. So just let them do their own thing. Well, I certainly hope that you will all try doing some seed starting this year. It's a really great activity, and it's a fun thing to do with the family as well. And maybe you can check something off the school experiment science list or something like that with some seed starting. So all of the products that we talked about are available on Bachmans.com. And you can choose non-contact curbside or non-contact delivery. And there is a link to all the product on the video description as well. So
Susie, we have a few more questions.
Awesome.
From very excited and eager gardeners. Amy is wondering if you can explain how to use the greenhouse on your right with the peat discs.
Okay. So Amy wanted to know how you use something like this, the greenhouse with the peat pots. So something like this is a complete kit. It has the tray, and then it has these little peat pellets, they're called. And so basically it is a compressed disc that has the sterilized mix in it. So you're going to get that little peat pellet wet, and it's going to expand, and it's kind of like a little netting around it to keep the soil together. And then you can just plant the seeds in that and let them all sit in the tray. And then once they've germinated and you're ready to transplant them outside, you just take that whole little nested bundle of soil, a little bundle of joy, right? And plant that into your garden. Okay, well, thank you so much for being with us today, learning about seed starting. I'm really eager to get out in the garden myself, and I bet you all are as well. So thank you very much, and happy seed starting.